And so, again, my name is Rafael Vázquez Guzman. I am the CEO and president of Líderes del Futuro Avanzando, a nonprofit organization in Northern California. I will not assume that all of you are from Northern California because we just came back from Mexico City a week ago on Sunday of last week. And for the first time, we took people from Maryland, we took people from Atlanta, Georgia, we took people from Tennessee, we took people from Nevada. And again, we're about to go in our August trip, and in our August trip, we're gonna likely take people from Southern California, but we are taking people from a couple other states. And so our nonprofit organization is trying to offer this program of advanced parole before DACA ends, which we suspect will happen in summer of 2025. And so I'll start briefly by talking about the three different types of advanced parole. Just because we offer the educational program doesn't mean that you have to wait until we have another event. I'll explain what these other programs are, and we'll go from there. So there are three types of advanced parole program for people with DACA. And the first one is the humanitarian one. And the humanitarian one is when maybe a parent is sick, a grandparent is sick, maybe your aunt is sick, and you can get a letter from your doctor that says, Juana Sanchez Alejandres is somebody who comes over to our office. My name is Dr. So-and-so. This is my license to practice. This comes from, again, where they are living, maybe in Mexico, El Salvador, whatever other place. And this person has this illness, this illness, this illness, for example, type 2 diabetes, they have already lost a foot, maybe they are having cancer, whatever other situation they have. And as a result of that, right, they give you all the details in the letter. And then it says every time this person comes and visits, they keep mentioning their grandson or their son or whomever the relationship is here. And we ask the authorities to please allow so-and-so to come and visit. That's kind of humanitarian advance parole. What you do then is you fill out a form, you provide all this other documentation. I'll show you a picture of it in a minute. And as a result of that, you can submit your application and wait about 4.5 months to see if it's going to be approved. Or two, if the situation is serious, for example, we had a nurse here who had a grandma that was about to have surgery and didn't have somebody to take care of her for about 3 weeks post-surgery. And as a result of that, they asked for what we call emergency advance parole. And they were allowed to go and take care of grandma because they had to change dressings and a bunch of stuff and take them back to the doctor as needed. And so that's one version of humanitarian advance parole. The other one is that maybe, and we've had one of these cases, maybe you are somebody who has many teeth that are rotten and need to be replaced. And when you did an assessment, a cost assessment here, they told you that it was going to cost maybe $50,000. But you also did an assessment and you check in and you got an estimate from maybe Mexico, and they told you that it's going to take 3 sessions for them to extract, clean up, replace, and that it was going to be done for $15,000 instead of $50,000. In those situations, again, what you can do is you can ask for humanitarian advance parole. You would have to prove how much it costs here, how much it costs there, why you need to do it. You have to write your own letter and everything else. If approved, that you can travel. And let's say it requires 3 sessions, you could ask, because the doctor's letter is going to say, we need to see you August 15th, September 15th, and October 12th. You can ask through one application to be allowed to do those 3 trips. So that's humanitarian advance parole. Then you have work-related advance parole. This is where you're not benefiting, but your employer is. So for example, we are in wine country, Northern California, north of San Francisco. And one of the things that happened here, and has happened multiple times, I have a client that his job requires him to go to Mexico, Argentina, and Peru, I believe. And the owner of the company writes a letter that says so-and-so needs to come, needs to travel to these 3 countries to recruit workers so they can come over and learn about this work. And as a result of that, this individual has DACA. And because of that letter, we do the application and everything else. And then right now he should be in Chile or Peru, one of those countries. And then he'll be back. Typically in his situation, he's allowed to travel for up to 45 days, and then he's able to come back. So that's work related. Doesn't benefit you, it benefits the employer. And the third one is humanitarian or educational advanced parole. And so this is where Sanacion y Cultura works. So if you're a college student, for example, and your university says for 1 semester, we're going to go to France, and you have DACA, you could ask to do that. And it's perfectly legit. In our situation, our participants do not have to, I want to be clear, do not have to be college students. The National Institute of Psychiatry and the National School of Anthropology and History in Mexico City are the ones that create the educational forum, the educational program. So you do not have to be a student here. You just happen to be a client of our office, and we do the work so that you can be accepted. We submit your information, and then they determine who gets accepted into the program. But because we are going to learn about mental health and a bunch of other stuff I'll cover in the next screen, that's why it qualifies under the educational program. Now, we have done this August of last year. We did this spring, that is March of this year. We did this July, which we just came back last Sunday. And we are going to go in August. And now the reason we are sitting here is we are trying to have the conversation about March. Now, before I continue, I want to be clear. This is the in case, right? In case Donald Trump doesn't win, we are planning, but we are not going to do any paperwork until November 6th. The elections are November 5th. And November 6th, if it is determined that Donald Trump didn't win the presidency, we're going to reach out to all of y'all who show an interest, and we're going to say, today is the 6th, Saturday we have to do the paperwork, and then you have to mail the paperwork on Saturday, November 9th or something like that, and you have to pay for the whole trip on that day. So that's how this is going. There's no guarantees. That's why we are not taking, other than names, we're not going to be taking any money. We're not going to be doing any scheduling of airline tickets, hotels, or anything else. So we're going to provide estimates, but nothing is final. So I wanted to clarify that now before I continue. Okay. And again, questions at the end, so that because we are recording this to share with everybody else later on. And so far, the only face that you have in the video is me. Okay, so it's not a vacation. It could not be taken as a vacation because then it doesn't qualify as an educational program. It's not like, hey, we got away with it. We are in Mexico, go be free. No. Sanacion means that being undocumented is difficult for our mental health, right? And to be able to cope, especially this year with the elections and how much negativity, right? It's happening in this country, sometimes at work, in the streets, and on television on a regular basis, right? Even the so-called Democrat candidate, Kamala Harris, is suggesting now that she too will shut down the border. Can somebody please turn off your mic? Thank you. And then cultura means that we need to reconnect or connect for the first time with our roots. The youngest person we've ever supported with DACA, I've been doing DACA applications and then DACA renewals since 2012. And the youngest person I've ever supported was 2 weeks old. So that person never really connected with her culture. And so this program is about that. Sanacion, we go to the National Institute of Psychiatry in Mexico City. There is a video I just put on our YouTube channel yesterday, Líderes del Futuro, that where I interviewed Dr. Mario, And again, we go into details about some of this stuff. And then Cultura, again, we go to multiple places that I'm going to mention in a few minutes. But again, this is not a vacation. It's about obtaining knowledge. That's what makes it an educational program. And then the last thing here is another benefit for some people is that some people, because of their marriage to a US citizen, they could potentially obtain status, right? But that is not our goal. That's not the initial or the only goal. Our goal is to provide tools, to provide education. That's what we want to make sure. If you understand where you're coming from, then you'll be okay with where you're going to, right? Our roots is what makes us strong during challenging times, during politics. Okay, so that's that. So before I continue, for those of you who are in Sonoma County, Marin County, Napa County, the North Bay area, or nonprofit organization Líderes del Futuro Avanzando will be hosting, as we have done 2 years in a row, on October 19th, starting at 8 a.m., the Mexican consulate here in Santa Rosa. So that's going to be a Saturday. The Tuesday before that, around 12 p.m. is when you start making appointments in case you need to renew your passport. And so just putting that out there for you before we put it out there to the community, just keep that in mind. The Tuesday starting at noon, you can try and make your appointment. We cannot guarantee any appointments, but we want to make sure. Okay. Cena de Traje, tomorrow we'll have our next Cena de Traje. The goal for tomorrow is mostly for people who just came back. A lot of them are having a difficulty with their mental health, emotional health, because they could travel, but they know their parents will never perhaps be able to travel back. Some of them were able to reconnect with grandma, aunts, uncles, cousins, other people, and they were able to experience time in Mexico City and other places. And so there's a little bit of guilt. There's a lot of other emotions. So tomorrow we're going to focus on that. And the next Cena de Traje will be in mid-September. Cena de Traje is open to only DACA recipients. Typically, in order to be able to create community, provide support, connect with people, and understand that you are not alone. You have never been alone, and our agency has made sure to provide that support. So what do we have planned? Multiple things. The goal is that we are going to leave the country March 15th, and we plan to be back on the 22nd. For many people, this is spring break in many of the schools, so this will work for some individuals. We would leave for the Mexico City trip, we would leave at 10:50 at night from San Francisco to arrive at 4:05 or 4:10 on Sunday, the 16th. And the other thing here is we would return at about 9 p.m. on the 22nd, which is the next Saturday. So we leave Saturday night and we come back the next week on Saturday. So it's really important for us that you understand that. This is for now just the Mexico City trip, because this time we are expanding. We're going to go to Oaxaca, and I myself will go to Oaxaca, and 2 of our board members, at least, depending how many people sign up, will go to Mexico City. We have everything set up with Mexico City. We have the National Institute of Psychiatry. We have the UNAM, which is the most prestigious university in Latin America. We have the anthropologists. We have the historians. We have everything, including the hotels are set up, transportation and everything. Oaxaca is brand new. That's why I will be taking care of Oaxaca, and then my board members will take care of Mexico City. Some individuals will choose to come back on the 22nd with us. Some individuals will ask for additional time in order to reconnect with family, which is part of this healing, and immigration does allow for that. If you're not Mexican, maybe you are from El Salvador, Guatemala, welcome. And although at this moment we can only set up trips to Mexico, in the future we hope to be able to expand to other places. But The reason I put it there is because some people have been wondering, if I'm not Mexican, can I participate? Absolutely. And if we know ahead of time, our anthropologists will provide information about your cultures as well. We just need to know ahead of time. So thank you for showing an interest if you're not from Mexico. So the Oaxaca trip, I want to stop here and clarify. The Mexico trip, for those of you who maybe have gone with us to either our August trip or March or July trip, you can have an idea of the cost. It's on average about $1,600. The Oaxaca trip, I want to make sure you understand, is going to be much more expensive because the travel time is longer, which means we're likely going to take American Airlines, and I'll show you a couple of slides on this in a minute, but we're likely going to take American Airlines from San Francisco to Houston, and from Houston, there is a direct American Airlines flight to Oaxaca. And so the cost at this moment, and I did a check on it, it says the cost would be about $1,100 plus taxes, plus fees. So again, we're talking about possible $1,500 between now and March because prices go up. We just went in July, literally a week ago, and for the August trip, the price went up by about $150 a ticket just to Mexico. So I want to give you that heads up. Another airline that we often use for Mexico City is United Airlines. United Airlines, the other thing here, by the way, is the trip in American Airlines would be 11 hours. We would go from San Francisco to Houston and stay there for several hours waiting. But the only benefit I like is that it's a direct flight, but it's also a larger airplane as compared to United. United Airlines, what they do is they subcontract Aeromexico, which is going to be in the next slide. And so they take you to Mexico City, but from there, United Airlines typically takes you to, what is it called? Excuse me, Aeromexico takes you from Mexico City to Oaxaca. And so in this one, it says round trip for economy is 1,400 plus taxes, plus everything else. And then that takes, again, 7 hours. And then the last one here is Aeromexico, and it says at the top that they are thinking it's going to be 775. I can assure you it's not going to be 775. I chose the cheapest flight. And the other reason why I am cautious about Aeromexico for Oaxaca is that, again, once they get to Mexico City, the airplane that they use from Mexico City to Oaxaca, which takes 45 minutes to get there, is much, much smaller. So I'm not sure how many tickets they would be able to sell us because American Airlines has a larger plane. They could possibly give us up to 50 or 60 tickets. United from San Francisco to Mexico City is able to sell us up to 56 tickets if we order them early enough. But Aeromexico typically has a very small airplane. And again, United sends some of their clients to Aeromexico. So that should give you an idea. The plane takes a lot longer, but it's more costly as well. All right. And then the itinerary, nothing has been finalized with Oaxaca. And the multiple reasons for that is, again, we do not want to contract and subcontract services if we don't know. What we are doing is we are connecting with people. So we have a couple of people that we know who can connect us to museums. We possibly will have the governor of Oaxaca do the welcoming. We are going to visit the University Benito Juarez in Oaxaca City. We have an invitation from our last visit to Ecatepec, Mexico. We have an open invitation to go learn, but it would take about an hour and a half trip to go to a place, a small village perhaps, to learn how they make chocolate from scratch. Again, cultural knowledge. And again, that includes visits to curanderos, curanderas, healers, and then a visit to Monte Alban. Those are some of the things that we already have agreements with. But again, they are tentative agreements until November 6th when we know the results. If the answer is yes, we are going to travel to Oaxaca, then that's when I would finalize all those contracts. That's why we also cannot send you enough information about the other costs yet. For Mexico City, as I mentioned, it is easy to set up. What do we plan? Same thing. We would leave and come back on the 22nd. We already talked about this. These are some examples of the places that we typically visit, and that is the UNAM, the most prestigious university, the Autonomous University of Mexico. And that on the left is our ambassador, Ashi the Axolotl. And so this is from the last visit that we just did. This is in Cuicuilco on the left, which is a wonderful space where one of our historians gave us a lot of information. And I don't want to give you a lot of information because I want you to experience it. On the right is when we visited Teotihuacan, all of the 4 buses that took us there. This is Teotihuacan, and in front of, in the picture, I should say, this is just a sample of the 88 people who participated. This is on the left and on the right. When we visited with the healers, the curanderas, there were 20 of them that visited with us that day when we went to Cuernavaca. On the left is a wonderful exhibit of plants that are being maintained there, and they're doing research. It's a museum that talks about natural herbs for healing, and that plant on the left is the Flor de Cempasúchil. And so, la flor de muerto, como le llaman. And then on the right is obviously one of our participants, because this time we took college students who are US citizens, or Ambassador Axolotl, and of course, the pharmacy that is around the corner where we go and receive services if we need to. And of course, the doctor. And then on the left in the next one is Lucha Libre, because Ashi wanted to go to Lucha Libre, so we did that. So there are times where we're learning in the classroom, and there are times where we're learning directly from the world. Lucha Libre is a cultural experience, and it's a lot of cultural ancestry that is there. And then on the right, what we see is El Zócalo, downtown Mexico City. They had an exhibit where they installed basically a pyramid temporarily to educate about Maya culture. And in the back, I didn't put the video, but in the video, it looks much better where the flag is moving around. And it's beautiful because it shows us, again, the church in the back, the pyramid in the front, and today, which is the flag of today. On the left side is part of the Friday training that we did, where we went underneath part of the Zócalo, and this is a replica of a piece that was found there, and it's a snail, right? And we don't have time to get into it, but snails are important to the ancestral knowledge of Mesoamerica. And then on the right, our colleagues who we contract with for bus services, husband and wife team, and they have been wonderful and very accommodating and supportive. When we visited Ecatepec on the left, you see Xochoscuintle, one of those hairless dogs that are supposed to, in Mexica culture, are supposed to guide you when you die. On the third world, when you're traveling, if you treated dogs fairly and respectfully, the dog is supposed to guide you across the water in the river so that you can continue on your journey. So that's from that. And of course, on the right is one of our vice presidents. This is the board member, Apolinar Vega, one of our board members who's in or secretary of the board. Again, very supportive. I truly appreciate not just his support, but his friendship and his patience with our program. On the left, again, the Xochoscuintle, and the daughter of one of our professors, Professor Erland Gonzalez. And on the right, yesterday we did an interview with Erandi Hernandez, one of our college participants who came to the radio, and that video is also on our YouTube video collection that just was released yesterday, where she shares about her experience visiting Mexico as a child of migrants. And so the itinerary will include either Chapultepec, for some people, and La Villa de Guadalupe for other people, maybe Lucha Libre one of those days, the National Institute of Psychiatry, maybe Xochimilco. We like to move things around a little bit. The National School of Anthropology, the National Museum of Anthropology, Ecatepec, Teotihuacan, Cuernavaca, and then museums in downtown Mexico. And so one of those is each day. And then what documentation would you need? You would need to fill out the I-131, and a screenshot of that is on the right. It's a 5-page document. And then you would need the G1145, which is the one that they send you when when you submit your application for advanced parole. They send you a receipt. And then a copy of your work permit from DACA, your last letter of approval from DACA. You have to write your own letter explaining why this program is going to be beneficial for your mental health. It has to be a full page. And then a copy of your passport. So make sure that your passport is valid. And then we want you to also get 2 pictures, US passport size. And then you'll be sending a check or money order for $630. You can also include the form so that they can charge it to your credit card. And we will provide the letters. We will obtain the letters from the National School of Anthropology and the National Institute of Psychiatry. And so it's really important that you, again, obtain those documents ahead of time if you plan to participate, just to make sure that you don't end up with a situation where it's delayed. The application is delayed. Even if you submit the application a week later than what we are planning, it could put in jeopardy the fact that you may or may not be approved. For the cost, again, what do we look at? Líderes del Futuro, we are a nonprofit organization. For the last year, we've been spending our own money to pay for our own airplanes and hotels and other expenses. And a couple of times we had even paid for other people's expenses to a certain degree. We can no longer do it. We don't have the budget to it. So for the first time ever, and again, I like to be transparent about things. Those of you who know me personally, you know that that's how I work. So for the first time ever, we're going to have to charge $250, which is cheaper than any other program. There are some programs that will charge you between $5,000 and $7,000 for you to participate in a program like this. We know that a lot of people don't have a lot of money. So I came to the decision that $250 was the minimum that we could do it for. We're not making any profit. We're still possibly going to have to spend some of our funds because of the number of chaperones that I have to send. But that's one cost. The advance parole fee is $630. Housing at this moment is looking like both Oaxaca and Mexico City, $110 per day per person who is in a single room, and about $95 for share space per person per room, right? So I want to be clear, because in the past that has led to confusion. People are like, oh, if we're doing double, I'm only paying about $48. No, it's $95 per person per day if you're doing double. Transportation at this moment is looking like it would be about $25 per day for 6 days of buses. Professional guides, for Mexico City, it would be $1,600. For Oaxaca City, it would be $1,600. And then I cannot give you a per person cost because it would be divided by the number of participants. So if we have 10 participants for Oaxaca and we have 50 participants for Mexico City, then obviously the cost is different. Food, you're going to be paying for most of your food. If for Mexico City, if we are going to do the same program that we offer in July, there will be a couple of times where we will collect money from you for food, like for the buffet. This time it was $25. And because of the exchange rate of dollars to pesos, by the time I paid, we actually lost a little bit of money. It became cheaper for you, the participants, than our program. It ended up costing me, we charged you, I think, $25 for it, and it ended up costing us $28 per person. So we lost some money there. So we don't know the estimates until it gets closer. And payment for some locations. For example, if you go to the the National Museum of Anthropology, it's about $10 to $12 per person. And then the other place that we typically charge for ahead of time, that way I go and buy, like this last time, it was 90 tickets. Without having to go one by one. Then the other place was the Teotihuacan. And so it ended up being, I pay in Teotihuacan for the entry tickets and I pay for the bus parking. And so again, we collect that money ahead of time. So prices are going to go up, but last time it was 20 for the museum and 20 for Teotihuacan. And then for the curanderos, the gentleman who did the taquiza, at the last minute, he had first agreed that he was going to charge us 200 pesos per person. And then a couple of days before we got there, he said no, he wanted 60% ahead of time. So I had to charge people. So if we're going to do that in Mexico City, in Teotihuacan this time for the trip to Mexico City, then we're going to charge you ahead of time. And that way I don't have to be collecting money in Mexico City or my representatives. Chucherias means that there's a lot of businesses in downtown Mexico City, a lot of businesses in Oaxaca City, that at some point when you go out in groups of 3 minimum to visit places in the area near the hotel, you will be wanting to buy like a bunch of stuff, whether it is rebosos, whether it is whatever it is. So again, put some money aside for that. We don't do anything, you take care of yourself. And again, the prices of the plane ticket change often. And as I mentioned, the price through United from July to August went up by about $150. The difference in getting your own ticket and us getting the ticket, because we go through what we call groups through United for Mexico City, is that for those who have gone with us, you will notice that unless you bring a large suitcase that is more than 46 inches in length, they never weigh your bag. And that is part of our contract with them. So they charge us ahead a little bit more, but that way you don't have to worry about that. And so for Mexico City, at this moment, United Airlines is saying that they would charge $760 plus, again, taxes and fees and all of the rest. And so it's looking like $1,200 with all the fees included for the round trip, just to give you an idea. So we're almost done with this, and then I'll open it up for Q&A once I stop recording. People who are interested, they need to choose between Oaxaca and Mexico City. I'm going to, once I stop sharing my screen, I am going to go and grab those links and put them in the chat, and then you can sign up. If you need to wait and say, I need to talk to my family, because this is what we're going to need you to do, we're going to need you to start saving money. Again, if the elections are won by anybody but Trump, then we are going to do the paperwork that Saturday, right after the elections, which is like November 9th, and you will have to pay all of the money. We're not going to do payment plans anymore because sadly, it is honestly sad as a nonprofit that is trying to support the community. I still have people who owe me from last fall, last spring, this summer. And so I no longer can afford that. A lot of it ends up coming out of my pocket and I cannot afford that. So next steps, make sure your passport is valid. Make sure your DACA is going to be valid in March, because in order for them to approve it, it has to be valid typically for 90 days beyond your return time. And then start saving. Talk to your family, right? I'm going to give you the date when we are going to stop, when we're going to shut down the list in a minute. Again, November 6th, we'll know the results, and then we'll do the documents that Saturday after that. If you are from out of county, out of state, we will do everything via Zoom, even before that Saturday if you want to, so that we can get it done faster. Okay. If you're going to go to Oaxaca or Mexico at some point in preparation, because it's an educational program, we will ask to see if Dr. Patricia Gallardo Arias will be able to do a training in Spanish about the cultures of Latin America. I'll open it to questions in a second, but I just want to make sure if you're interested, again, I'll put the links in a minute, but you'll have until the 10th of August at 9 p.m. to decide if you're going to participate or not. And with that,